How does it feel working with your father on a business together as a partner?
I've been loving it, to be honest. I've been loving it. We definitely have our differences, and it's been fun to be able to stay in contact, especially because I've been traveling for the last 4 years where I'm not home as often. For us to be able to check in daily now because of work, it's been an absolute gift. I think the hardest part is I'm in my early 30s. He's in his late 60s. Yeah. He's supposed to be retired. I'm just got married and planning, my whole entire family and life, where this company means something different to me than it does for him. And because of those differences, it leads to some tough conversations about how are we going to scale the company. I'm thinking way more about building the business, being an owner, a lot of things that he already did in the past, and he's using this as a way for him to stay motivated, to stay busy, to stay active, and he does a great job at it. But the way that we think about the business sometimes are difficult. We now have a full team. Before it was just me, him, and maybe a couple contractors. So the fact that he's now working in a organization that we're implementing processes, procedures, things that he doesn't really want to have to deal with because he's already done it before. Sometimes, honestly speaking, that's the hardest part, because he just wants to do his job and collect as much money as possible. But we have a bigger business now, and he needs to be kind of fitting in that realm, which sometimes is against what he wants to do every day from an administrative standpoint.
So he doesn't really want to do it, but he does it, you think, because he's doing it with you? How important is that? I'm trying to interview both your dad and you in the same episode, as you can see. But it's actually very beautiful. It's very unique that you are doing business with your father, very relevant to lots of our listeners. So I want to dig into this a little bit. So tell me more about this partnership, both pros and cons. Like, if you were to make this decision again to go into business with your father, would you do that? And what would you expect in this situation?
I totally would. And I'm usually pretty careful about getting into business with friends or family members. And I've had my own divorce from a business partnership with someone that I considered a really good friend. So, it's not easy, and putting your dad in the mix or a family member in the mix is even more complicated, but I would absolutely do it again. I think it's been a ton of fun. I've really enjoyed working with him, and the only cons really are just our personalities are very different when it comes to, leadership and just the way that we're seeing the next stages of our lives in general, which can't be changed because that's just the reality. It hasn't been a big problem, but it's more about, the ability, learning even to communicate between each other has been a blessing. The fact that we have tough conversations that you typically don't need to have, with a family member, you can even learn so much about each other throughout the process. He's challenged me so much into being a little bit tougher, into understanding the business world in a way that he's seen it and why he's been so successful. And I think I've challenged him from a personality standpoint to maybe be a little bit softer, to be a little bit more kind and a little bit more patient, which is a different style that he has than I have. And I think both those things are important and complement each other, especially as you're building a business. So with that said, I really welcome and love the challenges that come with it, especially from someone that I respect so much, because it just allows us to learn from each other every day. And it's really cool to see myself growing up, where he always wanted me to take over one of his businesses, and he was always trying to teach me how to run my own company. And to be honest, now I'm starting to see that we're really truly partners in this, and that he's getting just as much out of me, and he's learning my abilities from the last 10 years of me building businesses the same way that I was able to see what he's done in the past. And I think that's probably a nice moment for him as well, to kind of see me grow up and kind of take the reins on growing these companies and setting them up the way that they're set up, where maybe before, he might not have had that confidence in me because he never really worked with me. He just kind of saw what I was doing on the side.
I absolutely see how each of you separately benefits a lot from this partnership. But I wonder how it affected your relationship. Did it bring you closer, or it basically changed your father and son relationship into business partners relationships?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. But I really believe it brought us closer, because even though, to be honest, the majority of our conversations is about business, I think the volume and frequency that we speak to each other is significantly more than when before I was building this company with him and I was working in Colorado, for example, and maybe we would check in once every week, 2 weeks, and it was fine. But now we do the check-ins once every 2 weeks on a personal level, like we always have. But then every day we're going back and forth talking about business. And at the end of the conversations, we might say, hey, what are you doing tonight for dinner? Or, what are you doing this weekend? So the idea to be able to mix the business day to day with just being in constant communication with someone that, you love so much, I think it's been great for us. We've never really had any terrible falling outs. And, my dad's personality is very abrasive. It's very direct. And I know that about him, so we can go back and forth and go at it, where someone listening might be like, oh my God, like these guys must hate each other. Just from a standpoint of the way that we kind of try to be to the point, try to be direct and explain our points, but in a very, maybe more aggressive way than let's talk and be calm. And then at the end of the call, it's all right, Dad, love you. Like, we'll take care of it. Have a good day. It doesn't really ever turn out to be ugly. So I'm grateful for that as well, because we've just really learned, how to communicate in our own special way.